Good day, everyone. Today I'm talking to Sahithi Divi, who's a co-founder of Impact Scientist. Good day, Sahithi. How are you?
I'm good, Tony. Thanks a lot for having me on your show.
You're most welcome. Sahithi, thank you for giving us your time despite your busy schedule with all the organization and all the groundwork that you're doing for Impact Scientist. So thank you. We truly appreciate you giving us your time.
It's absolutely my pleasure to be here, and I take it as an opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences with you today.
Excellent, excellent. And Sahithi, are you happy for me to go into our first question?
Yes, we can jump onto it.
Thank you. Sahithi, can you please share a little about yourself, the place you were born, your education, your passion, the things that you enjoy doing, and one thing that the public might not know about you?
I was born in Andhra Pradesh, Eluru, in West Godavari district. But as my father was working in Madhya Pradesh, I happened to spend most of my life, that is like 13 to 14 years, the basic primary and high school in Bhopal from Delhi Public School. And I happened to come back to Vijayawada, actually, which most of them don't know. Most of the people don't know that I actually studied in Vijayawada in a residential school for 2 years and moved to Hyderabad, from where I went back to a place called Chirala, which is in Prakasham district in Andhra Pradesh. And from there, I went back to the United States to finish my master's in social entrepreneurship. So usually when I share my journey, that part of those 2 years of Vijayawada gets lost in sharing my journey. And I think those 2 years also have been the most crucial because I've stayed in Bhopal, which is a Hindi talking state, from Hindi talking state. And I was a national level skating champion. So I always thought that I'm going to go into sports or I'm going to be a journalist. So I was always keen on field work. I think I really was fond of being on the field, and I think I participated in almost every sport at school, but I was the best at skating. I went up to the nationals. So I think when I look back at my life today, the most impactful things are the ones which I haven't really shared with the world, that is like the skating. Which kind of taught me the sportsman spirit, the community strength, the part of playing with a group or, representing somebody, and rather you win or lose, what is the spirit of a sportsman. So I think like this, I really consider skating and my residential years to be my formation and the most impactful part of the journey. And on the other hand, I would say that my 1 year in San Francisco was really influential personally for myself because I had a chance to meet around people from more than 100 countries when I was studying in the school there. The school was basically run on the concept of diversity. So there were not more than two people from one country in the same class. So I could look at social entrepreneurship, the measure and impact of the sustainable development goals and how can execution be, challenging in different geographies and with different, political scenarios and environmental impacts which are taking place. So, I could see the complete scenario with the eyes of 30 more countries, and I felt most stronger because there were few things which I could give as an input, and there were so many things that I could pick from the table. So, this combination of absolutely local and the complete diverse, international diverse experience has been my most impactful mix, I would say, to eventually come here today and be doing what I'm doing.
Excellent, Sahithi. Thank you for sharing that. There's one term I use when I talk to people, and that is, cognitive diversity. And I think, from what you're saying, because of your overseas experience and your interactions with people from diverse backgrounds, it really opens your minds to different ideas and how other people or other cultures look at problems, you know what I mean? And I think bringing that back to what you're doing with Impact Scientists, I'm sure it's helping you in many ways. So thank you for sharing that. And Sahithi, moving on to our next question. Can you please share about your work experiences before you started Impact Scientist, and what lessons have you brought forth from your previous work experiences into Impact Scientist?
In my first experience working with a live project was in the United States. When I worked with Net Impact, we were dealing with how the regional conferences could be, taking place from the social impact epicenters. And then I started working with a company called Chizuba, which is an online volunteering platform. And I was working there as head of partnerships. So this kind of gave me a very diverse, I got a chance to, talk to many NGOs and how the government policies are being executed on the ground level and how they're impacting the NGOs and what is the scope for online volunteering. And post that, I happened to continue my executive education, in design thinking practitionership and sustainable business strategies. So it kind of helped me to filter out what I need to unlearn in the process and take forward according to what I like and my passion. And a year back, I felt I'm unable to impact every NGO as deeply as I would from my job. So I quit my job a year ago and I happened to float Impact Scientist. My volunteering experience and my action project experience, these might be very small, but most of the times the live projects and working with the right groups and the nature of the project kind of defines where you want to, in which field you want to work. So sometimes I think my past experiences have been really great. I've been grateful for them to kind of bring them here to execute them in today's context on the ground level.
Excellent, Sahithi. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Sahithi, moving on to our next question. Can you please tell me, when did you and your co-founder start Impact Scientist? And what was the inspiration behind this entrepreneurial venture?
Both of us always, I think it was not about entrepreneurship in the beginning. It was all about, we wanted to create an impact, but be able to measure it. So we felt that it's not possible being based out of a city. So unless we move to, tier 2, tier 3 places, we'll be not, it will not be possible for us to measure the impact and create that small community of people who, whom Suren can serve as a doctor and whom I can impact as an impact scientist. So while we were kind of finding ourselves in our individual journeys, so as a doctor, he felt that he wants to provide affordable, quality healthcare to places and to people where, a doctor is not available. In a city, it is possible to find an orthopedic surgeon, but from the place where we live, for around 30 to 35 villages, there is no orthopedic doctor available. So that kind of, pushed me also to think about what are the avenues which are available for me around, because once we moved from Hyderabad to Rajahmundry initially, we were actually, I was continuing to write my blog and he was continuing to work in his corporate hospital. But, just within a month, I found myself going to villages around Rajahmundry, and he also wanted to, come back, navigate to a village. So during this process, we happened to meet an NGO called Smart Village Movement as a part of Impact Scientist, while we were researching on, various supply chains that included women in their businesses or in the skill. So like that, I happened to meet the Smart Village Movement, and they told us that, why don't you consider moving to Malkipuram or Mori, because there is a dire need of orthopedic surgeons over here, and people travel up to 1.5 hour, away, just even for a very small dislocation or for a fracture. So, and I happened to meet the weavers in the same time frame, and it was very easy for us. We felt it was very coincidental, and it was almost very magical that, the weavers and the need for doctor happened at the same place, and we could finally take this decision that, okay, because I had a chance to choose between handlooms and food and skill. to become self-sustainable from impact scientists. I did not want to get into food in the initial. So handlooms were the, exact segment that resonated with me. So that's what kind of, we kept doing what we had to in the journey. And I think that pushed us to where we are now. And now we are called as entrepreneurs because we are creating jobs and we are impacting people. So I would say that a real entrepreneurial journey will, the entrepreneur would never know that, this is what we were supposed to do. It actually arises from the need of the area we are working from. So it was more about taking 1 year to understand where we should go, whom we should impact, what is the area we must choose to impact. And within that area, what is the area that can create, financial sustainability for us so that we can economically empower others. So it happened almost like we had our own milestones, and at one point we found each other, at a common point where we can impact together.
Excellent, excellent, Sahithi. And it's such an encouraging story, like, that you guys kind of found your place, organically. You didn't have to push each other to, consider each other's viewpoint, but it kind of like all fell in place.
Yes.
So that's very encouraging, and good on you guys for, taking up that challenge, especially when you are living in a city, with the comforts of the city and everything. It's a big shift to actually move to, as you said, a tier 2 or tier 3 city in India. You know what I mean? The facilities and stuff,
yes,
or the expectations, and is very different. So taking that big decision as a family, you know what I mean? And that's a major step, and good on you guys for doing that. And Sahithi, moving on to our next question. So who are impact scientists customers?
We have two segments in Impact Scientist. One is the Impact Scientist Rural Store, which provides a platform to the handlooms, which are created by the weavers of rural East Godavari currently. So any handloom lover, any conscious buyer, or whoever wants to buy sustainable, whoever wants to shop something sustainable. So anybody who comes to, the Sunday Santa market and shops from the sustainable brands, or in fact, even women who, like most of our customers have been women till now, as of now, whoever wants to buy a sari, for example, most of the women who are, extreme sari lovers, I see that they have this inclination towards handlooms, handmade, exclusive, because everything handmade is exclusive, even if it's the same design, the two saris would be different somewhere. And women, men, whoever is looking at, cotton fabric or looking at sustainable fashion choices currently. And as we move on to the interior decor, so in the future, we'll be diversifying. So it would be too early to talk about that. But we are into clothing right now. And so all the conscious buyers and all the handloom lovers, are our customers. And impact our stories are, we have most of the students, youngsters, and women up to 55 years old, as per the numbers we have, who read, almost around 300 to 450 people read the impact stories every day on our website. And there's a reach of about 10,000 people, the posts we have on the social media. So there is a beautiful mix. I cannot say that these are the specific people who read the articles. Definitely there is a segment who buy the saris and the limited fabrics we have now. But there is, I would say that there is no segment which I can say that this is the segment who reads the articles, because there is a 60-year-old lady, there's a 75-year-old man, there is a 11-year-old kid, and even 8-year-old kid, there are children who actually come up to me and ask me doubts from their own perspective, and I have to answer them, because it is all about gender equality, and then it transpired into women empowerment. And then it transpired into creating impact stories of impactful women. And then it was about women in the rural space who are creating that impact in the supply chain, because cashew industry, the mango industry, the plate making industry, the brick making industry, the broom making industry. I wrote stories on so many. So those who were sweet lovers, would read about Atrepuram, which is a village, which is, the sweets there are very famous, and they would have had it like, when they were children. But I wrote about how women are struggling in that segment. So people who really love Atrepuram sweets are so diverse in nature. So it kind of, impacts scientists while writing stories about women and various products, and especially when it expanded and came into the rural ecosystem. We have had very diverse people reading our articles.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sahithi, for sharing that. And I believe, Sahithi, if I'm not wrong, you mentioned about those handloom saris being made. Just to get an idea, like, so when you say handloom saris, how long does it take for actually a sari to be made? And what effort goes into it?
If it is a cotton sari, it takes 2 people and 1 day, or like 16 hours of hard work, and 2 people continuously working for 16 people to create one cotton sari. And if it is a pattu sari, if the silk is very fine, and if the threads are very fine, it takes about 1.5 to 3 days, depending on the fineness of the thread, depending on the fact that it shouldn't rain, depending on so many other conditions. But if everything is fine, if everything is provided to them, then 1 to 2 days and 2 people. And even the wage differs a lot between the cotton and silk, although the physical effort goes into is almost similar. But I would say that the weaver is actually really enjoying the process of weaving. But every weaver, as we spoke about, okay, if everything is provided to them, they can do it in this amount of time. No, not even a single weaver has everything in place, Tony, because I have met more than 100 weaving families in the last 2 months, I can say, and not even one weaving family I felt that, okay, this is how a weaver's life should be. Okay, this is an ideal weaver's family. And can we take this as a case study and, kind of bring these interventions into other families? No. If somebody has taken up weaving as a skill or as, their livelihood option, then they're struggling. None of the children are being trained to become weavers. So I think it's also an endangered skill. And because it's an endangered skill, and because people on the ground level know that handloom saris will be very limited in number, there are 18,000 weavers available in the district where I'm living in Andhra Pradesh, which means not more than 10,000 saris can come out every day from East Godavari. That's the maximum. And if we are trying to bring in Amazon, Etsy, and I know big, huge market solutions for these 10,000 saris, then that creates pressure on the weaver, because, reaching up to Amazon will take another 4 hands to change in the middle. That will increase and shoot up the cost of this. And the consumer, on the other hand, will think that the handlooms are not at all available for an affordable cost. So, let's not buy handloom because it's a very expensive deal. So like this, them not able to have the right social conditions, they cannot make so many saris. We are looking at wrong technological solutions, bringing them to the villages. So I think these kind of things are impacting the number of saris which are made and the quality of saris, because if a weaver makes a sari with, wholeheartedly with happiness, if there's HQ, when he's making it, the product really comes out well. Or else you can see the sadness in the sari, you can see that it's just like a painting.
Excellent. And
yeah,
that's very interesting. I mean, when you compare the finished product, in this case, a sari to a painting, and you can actually, if you really dwell into it, if you're a sari critic or a fanatic, I think, as you said, probably they can see, if the weaver was happy or, if the weaver was under stress of some sort. So it's a unique perspective. I've actually never thought about it, but thank you, Sahithi, for sharing that. And Sahithi, moving on to our next question, could you please share some insights on Impact Scientist business model?
One, the first Impact Scientist financial solution which we brought in was the Impact Store, through which we are creating a customer base and will be adding various products, value-added products. So right now, as a part of Impact Store, what we do is we procure the fabric from the weavers. We partnered with 8 weavers in a village called Gudapalli. And in fact, yesterday, we partnered with a few more weavers from a small hamlet called Adivipalam. Once I take the fabric from them, there are 100 licensed women tailors in this area, who were trained by a corporate company called Usha, which is a sewing machine making company mostly. And no, they are an electronic company, but they also have a huge range of sewing machines. So they came here and they trained around 100 women to be, licensed tailors who could create value added and market ready products. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the fabric from them. Sometimes I directly sell the fabric, like the saris are directly sold. And there are some value added products like infant handloom kit, handmade kit. So the infant handmade handloom kit is a collection of a baby bed sheet, baby towels, and baby mittens, baby caps, baby pajamas. So a collection of all these, which are actually the tailors are making it, and the fabric is coming from the weaver, and we share the profit. We share 25% of the profit. Like if you're selling the sari, we share 25% of the profit with the weavers. And if we are selling the handloom kit because it's tailor made, we share 25% of the profit with the tailor in this case. So like that, we'll be partnering with, say, jewelry making people and anything that includes cotton or handloom. We are ready to innovate. So that's how we call it a rural innovation platform, because using handlooms, I want to really play around and bring in designers, various boutiques, and we are welcome to resellers. So like that, we've had around good amount of sales in the last few days, few weeks, and we kind of working hard on how can we keep the momentum going and keep capturing more and more market. And also the consumers are very happy on the other hand. So this is the Impact Store is one revenue model. And the second one, which I'll be launching in the next 2 months, is a workshop. It's a rural workshop, a rural tourism workshop. And it consists of 3 things mainly. One is design thinking and introduction to sustainable development goals, rural innovation. So, social entrepreneurship and social sustainable development goals in specific, and what is impact scientist and exposure to the cotton supply chain. So it is a 10 days workshop, and people from across the world are welcome to apply for it. And the only qualifier is that, we'll be having a question, we'll be asking a question in the application form saying, why do you want to be a part of this workshop? And they have to be either wanting to influence, impact, or create an enterprise in the industry of cotton or handlooms or using weavers. So this is one pointer and qualifier to be a part of our workshop. It's a paid workshop, and 10 days of homestay, food, and as I said, design thinking, the classes, and 1 day with the weavers, and complete exposure to cotton supply chain, as into how a cotton seed is sown, to how the yarn comes out, how it's processed, how it goes to the weaver, a day with the weavers, how the sari is created, how are they adulterated, how is technology interrupting, and how do they reach the corporate shelves, and how is the online market treating the weavers. So like that, the complete cotton supply chain, and 3 days of village experiential tourism, like, how could you probably go to the pond, fish your own fish, like how we do it in Australia, and have the local people teaching the rotu pachadi and the traditional foods to the tourists, and how can you tie a sari, how can you cook local food. So the last 3 days would be experiential tourism to kind of make people experience that this is the real village. So these 10 days of workshop is a paid workshop. So this is the second financial model that we are looking at. So the Impact Store and the workshop are my major revenue drivers.
Excellent. Sahithi, thank you for sharing that. It looks like you really are, expanding, that opportunity to the wider world as well. You know what I mean? To have
Yes.
that idea of what's actually happening on the grassroots. And I think, you could have already thought about it probably because of that global experience or exposure that you had, you know what I mean, to share that
Yes.
story with the wider world. And that's very positive and encouraging. And Sathi, moving on to our next question. So how is impact scientist different to other organizations or businesses working in the similar space in India?
Everyone thinks I'm an NGO. So I think that is the differentiator. Impact Scientist is a social enterprise. We are really working hard to find a balance, find the common line between the purpose part and the profit part. Because at one point, if I'm just writing stories about weavers and if I'm capturing videos about weavers, and if I'm going to every weaver and asking the same thing in a different way, and if they have to the challenges of every weaver will be the same. So if 100 people have told you the same thing, it means, that case study is enough for you to kind of come back with interventions. So after one point, the purpose kind of slates up, starts floating above, because ultimately writing so many stories was draining them out and draining me out. And the real solution was economic empowerment. Whereas I thought that the real empowerment was creating awareness. Although the products will not have the value without the story, but the story, the characters played in the story will not be happy ultimately without the economic empowerment. So I think Impact Scientist is a brilliant example of a social enterprise, or making. I wouldn't say that we are an ideal social enterprise, but we are a making in social enterprise. And finding that balance between profit and purpose is even difficult in today. Like, it's even hard to think of it today, because I don't know whether I should focus on my sales or go to the weavers and talk to them once again. And there are so many things. Once you go onto the ground, it is very hard to come back and kind of reassemble yourself into a marketeer or a salesperson, or talk to the delivery guy. And I completely have to change hats. And being on the ground level, we are different because we are on the ground. I think that's the biggest difference, which I feel, because we could probably reduce the middlemen. We can share the profit back to the weavers. So these are the points which are making me happy. These are the points which are making the consumers happy. These are making the weavers happy. So finding that common space where all three stakeholders are, not very dissatisfied, at least from the beginning. I think that is how we are able to be different, by being here physically on the ground.
Excellent, excellent, Sahithi. And I think you shared a lot of great points. And I think one thing probably that stood out, I'm sure this is there in your mind as well. I think it's building that trust, isn't it, between the people working, on those handlooms or other industries in the villages, and them being able to relate with you, or you trying to understand their problem, and them realizing that Sahithi is actually coming along with us in this journey. You know what I mean? And that trust basically opens a lot of doors as well.
Yes.
And because sometimes you have this corporate approach where businesses tend to come and they have certain strategies, and they kind of more or less, because corporate strategy, sometimes it's all about making profit. So they have to make sure that whatever investment they're making is basically giving the businesses shareholders dividends or whatever. But when you come to the level of the villages, it's a different story, because they're really looking at working with people who really believe in them, trust them, and would also eventually be able to empower them in that process. So it's very encouraging, and it's very positive that you've actually taken that step of actually going to the ground level and working, from ground level up. So good on you for doing that. And Sahithi, moving on to our next question. Has the current COVID-19 pandemic affected your operations? If yes, what have you done to mitigate its effect? If no, how were you able to ride the storm?
Impact Scientist was in Hyderabad. We were located in Hyderabad when COVID actually happened. And I was doing Impact Hour stories and writing, stories about women entrepreneurs from across the world, and about men who were influencing women through their enterprises. So the most beautiful part of the Impact Hour stories was going in person, meeting them, spending like 2 to 3 hours with them, having a coffee, and then, putting my questions forward. And the story used to, we used to have that conversation because it was about how could women unleash the potential, into the economy. And every woman had a very different story, and sitting with them personally used to, make me feel really connected. But COVID kind of took away that delusion from my head because everything became virtual. I could fasten up the things, I could do more number of stories, I could impact more quickly. And because everybody was on phone, people were reading about using local stuff and being healthy, and equality, and women being the majority frontline health workers, and being at home, women, the kind of struggle they were facing, especially in the developing countries, because, there was so much of household work that was reported in India, and so many problems, health implications, which were additionally put. So these kind of things, it quickly brought in my audience. Whatever I was writing, people had the time to read, and they had I think there's been a huge attitudinal shift in people post the pandemic. If you see, self-discovery, and, with all that, I never thought that COVID was a storm to impact scientists, because it is mostly an online platform, online influencing platform. And for all the virtual platforms, I think it was a win-win situation during COVID. But coming onto the ground, weavers have been struggling a lot. So I think once I came onto the ground, it was very hard to tackle with COVID, because wherever we go, we have to kind of check the temperature and, sanitize. It's so humid on the ground level that it's very hard to breathe for people. So I think people are scared to come out. People are not creating enough products. They kind of don't trust. They feel that the urban markets change very quickly. And with COVID, they feel that, we need to find something even more reliable than just, relying on the skill as a livelihood. So for impact scientists as an influencing platform, COVID has been a pro. But being on the ground, I can see that because of COVID, because of how things have been stopped, and there's no transportation, there's no outreach, the resources are not available. It has been a very difficult time for me on ground, because the products are not being created, and you don't know how the consumer behavior is. We knew something till a few months back, but now the consumer behavior has also changed. The spending patterns have changed. So it's kind of understanding your consumer again, for the products also. To sell, it is challenging, but to write, it is really nice. So the purpose part is doing well. The profit part, as usual, struggles. But I think we're trying to find a balance between that. And I think things are getting better now.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sahithi, for sharing those points. And now moving on to our next question. So moving forward, what are your plans for Impact Scientist?
Ultimately, we want to provide a sustainable market solution to the local weavers, and provide good quality, affordable handloom fabric to the consumers, on the other hand, which is not available so easily. And through the workshop, I want to create more and more, leaders who can lead the way through, as you said just some time back, of, looking at the whole perspective with the lens of rural ecosystem. So I want more and more leaders, more and more influencers, more and more enterprises to be created using design thinking on the ground level for the handloom and, the weaving industry. And ultimately, why I'm doing all this is because the weavers are not passing on the skill to their children. And it's very simple that if the skill is being not passed to the children, forget about outsiders learning it, if, as a new skill. So we'll have to do something from, for saving the skill from getting endangered. Because on the other hand, if you see, there's a huge market and demand for the handmade handloom fabrics.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Sahithi. It sounds very promising. So moving on to our last question. So what are the life and business lessons that you would like to share with someone who is planning to start a business or venture or social enterprise in India or even the world for that matter?
A social entrepreneur will always have to choose where he or she needs to stop just thinking about the purpose, as I said. And it is very important to financially sustain on your own if you're looking at social entrepreneurship, because ultimately whoever is your beneficiary is looking for economic empowerment. It's very clear. Economic empowerment, or increase in the quality or the standard of living. Or how are they getting the improvement, and people on the ground level. The second thing is, which I want to say, is working on the ground will not be easy, but there are huge lot of opportunities lying here, because 80% of our population lives in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even less. There are hardly any few cities in India. I mean, although the population density is very high in India, there are, there's 80% of our population living in its villages, and India is a skill-based economy. Education is the key to development. Education is the fundamental key to development. But the fact that India is a skill-based economy cannot be ignored. Almost every household comes with a skill that is 50 to 100 years old. Capturing all that area, all those are businesses. You look at from the lens of business. Rural India has a huge ground for opportunities, and we need more and more people, leadership resources basically, to be based out of here, to be able to see and execute these strategies on ground. And before you actually jump into any kind of social enterprise, it's very important to give a lot of time to yourself and to self-discover. We feel that it's not important, and it's an accessory or an add-on to travel and to give time to yourself and to spend time in self-discovery. But no, social entrepreneurship is a huge, it's a permanent journey. You're never going to arrive to what you're looking for, because people's stories, experiences will change you so much on the way that you need to be very strong, and you need to know what makes you happy. And as a social entrepreneur, you've already, taken the choice to give. So it is very important to take equally. And like how we say, learning and unlearning is important. As a social entrepreneur, don't just get into the habit of giving and get drained out. It's really important to work on yourself and cross-subsidize your skills and update yourself.
Excellent. Excellent, Sahithi. I think you've touched on so many things, isn't it? I mean, especially that aspect of social entrepreneurship, because some people jump into it because it's their passion. It's something that, they want to do, because they've seen others doing it. And then once they step in, they realize, okay, this is actually not as rosy as I thought. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a lot of hard work. And then, that's where the make or break point comes. Do I, continue in that journey, or do I look for other opportunities? So I think making that informed choice, beforehand actually definitely helps in a lot of in avoiding a lot of unwanted expectations coming in the way. And I think one of the good points you said, I believe one among many, is economic empowerment. You know what I mean? Because you can assist people with a lot of things, but unless and until we help them to be their own, help them to stand on their own feet. Exactly. And that word economic empowerment, you know what I mean, comes along. It just gives them more value. It gives them a persona. It gives them, control of their lives. And that is very important, because sometimes I think, you look at opportunities or situations in villages and you think, they need some sort of charity. They don't really need charity. They really need
hand-holding.
They need hand-holding, as you said, and they also need to be valued and to be seen as important part of the economy, you know what I mean? And so
recognition.
Exactly, recognition. Yes. So good on you. So good, powerful words coming out. So thank you for taking on this challenge. You and your co-founder, who's also your husband, Suren, being able to do that as a family, it's a rare thing. You don't really see that happening, but for you both to share that similar vision and supporting each other through that process, because the journey is definitely hard. So having that support from each other is such a valuable thing in this venture. And so I wish you, from my side, I wish you both the very best as you move forward, and hope that you guys would make an impact for sure, in the village that you're operating. And then hopefully down the line, other states and other villages would look at it as a model, to emulate in their villages, and hopefully other states as well. And I hope that, down the line, you would also hopefully get state government help, or maybe even the central government help and recognition, because then it could probably, take on another level altogether. But before that, making sure that, you do your groundwork, you have all those systems in place, to enable you to scale up when that opportunity comes. So I hope and I wish you the very best. And thank you so much, Sahithi, for your time.
Thanks a lot, Tony. I think the questions were, they kind of made me think of so many factors which I do not think, due to the field work and due to being on the ground. So these kind of conversations really help me kind of reevaluate and get back to the core of why I started and, why I'm doing all this. So thanks a lot for taking me back to all those places and reminding me of the most important milestones again. Thanks a lot for this wonderful conversation.
You are most welcome, and thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.